Miss Tafheen Sharif, and you told me I can call you Taf.
You call me Taf,
All
yeah.
right. Thank you very much for accepting this interview.
Pleasure.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, good.
So you are, as I got in this paper, you were legal, you studied legal honors degree, works in the court service, and justice of the peace, also a school governor and charity trustee. Executive member for community safety, and was recognized as the local government information unit's young councillor of the year.
That was many years ago. I was the executive member for community safety. Now I'm the first deputy of Tameside Council and the executive member for health.
Fantastic.
That's now. But that's the history.
Yes, that's the history. Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner for Bedfordshire from 2012 to 2014. And then first Muslim and ethnic minority civic mayor.
That's right.
In May 2023. Representing the Mosley ward since 2016. Positions such as first deputy and chair of the health and wellbeing board. Wow, what fantastic achievements. So how did that happen? All these achievements, how did you get through these?
Right, so firstly, I'd like to thank my Lord for all the achievements that you've named today. At the end of the day, it's through my family support, through my community support, and through the support of people around me who have pushed me to go further and further in life. So as a young person, I was always, I grew up in poverty, and I always saw my parents give back to the community. So they didn't have anything themselves. They came to this country with nothing. Many years ago, in the 1960s and 70s, they came to the country with absolutely nothing, but what they came with was for their values. And what I saw was, despite my father working 18 hours in the factories, he was still helping those around him, whether it's the neighbour, whether it's a family member, people who are struggling more than him. And I watched that growing up and learned from that, and I myself to this day, even as a child but throughout my adulthood, although yes, I've gained my education, I've worked in top firms and companies, I always felt in myself I need to give back. So my background is in law, and I worked for a law firm, a corporate law firm, but during this period I always wanted to give back to the communities around us. So I became interested in politics. That's where my interest in politics came. I wanted to give back. So I decided I wanted to go into politics and make a difference and help people around me. So in 2010 I became interested, and by 2011 I was elected as a councillor in the county of Bedfordshire. Not to say, up until that, I was always working in the corporate world. I was actually still volunteering and doing things in the community. So, for example, at the very young age of 17, one of the youngest in the country, I was a school governor. I went back to my primary school, my infant and junior school, and I said I want to give my services, and I became a school governor. As a school governor, you make decisions about the school curriculum, about the head teacher, about the staff, about the resources, all about the budget, all sorts of things. This gave me experience to then become, what you see today, a politician. Governance is my area. So that was my background, and then, like I say, in 2011 I became elected as a councillor, and I went straight in. I was very lucky to be the cabinet member for community safety at the time, and I do find it's a privilege for me. At the time, it was a very challenging time in the country. We were experiencing riots. We had EDL, the English Defence League, at our doorstep, which was dividing communities.
Which year are you talking about?
This is in 2011.
2011, yes.
And dividing communities, 2011-12. So I was at the forefront of those issues, and because of the way I dealt and handled some of our very challenging issues at the time, I was recognised by the government and became or won an award for being the Young Councillor of the Year at the time because of my cabinet. I would say because of the cabinet position. So you know, for me, I then just developed myself, encouraged those around me, you know, young people in particular, to go for positions of responsibility. And this is what it is, whether you're a politician or whether you're doing voluntary work or you're out in the community, they are all responsibilities on us to help one another and to make a difference to the society you're in. So through that came opportunities, as you've described in my resume. I was then identified to become the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, which was a real honour. It was a real honour because we never had a Muslim Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. I was the only one in the country. There was no Muslim or ethnic minority commissioner, but there, as a deputy, I was one of, you know, one of very, very few. So I walked into a room of many, largely, as you can imagine, the police world, male, white male, you know, middle-aged, older-age men, and that was my working environment, and it made, you know, me really kind of stronger, because obviously I had to tackle a lot of stereotypes and a lot of challenges myself. But yeah, it was all a very interesting experience. I always say to people, when opportunities come your way, don't hesitate to take those opportunities. Do not hesitate, go for them and make the most out of it. Work hard, be determined, know your stuff, develop your knowledge, and you will then be able to make a difference. And don't just make a difference, make a visible difference. Because I don't know my journey, nobody knows their journey, but the journey I've had so far, I always believe I'm inspiring other people. I always believe that I'm trying to encourage women in particular, but encourage our young people, our women, to come forward and take positions of responsibility and make a difference.
Fantastic. I learned a lot now about all these things from you. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you can be a good inspiration for the ladies, especially the Muslim ladies who wants to get into this politics or the politics path or become a politician.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So I can say absolutely you were so brave as a lady, you could make it. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let me just ask you my first question. What inspired you to become Tameside's first Muslim woman councillor, and how does it compare to women's journeys in the Middle East?
Thank you. So first of all, I've been a politician for 14 years now, and believe it or not, 10 years ago, I was in a borough of, I was in Luton, which is in Bedfordshire, near London, which is where I grew up, and 10 years ago, I was asked to be the mayor.
Wow.
But in that borough, there was a lot of previous ethnic minority mayors. There was lots of Muslim mayors. It wasn't a big deal the way it is here. And at the time, I was also offered a different opportunity, which was a police commissioner. And my background is law, so crime, criminal law is my kind of area. So I went into that, and I didn't become the mayor. And I'm so glad I didn't become the mayor, because you could only become a mayor once.
Of course. Yes.
So when I got married 10 years ago, I moved to Tameside. And although I was a councillor there, I obviously had to stop that, and I was very lucky to be elected to Tameside Council. At the time, I was the only Asian, ethnic minority, black councillor in the whole of Tameside.
Wow.
I was quite shocked to see this, because Tameside does have diversity. Tameside does have ethnic minorities from Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Africa, Arabia, in the Middle East. We do have this diversity, but no one had ever become a politician.
Yes.
So I was the first. I was very, So when I joined Tameside Council 9-10 years ago, the first thing I said was, "Wow, we've got to change something here. Where are the people who are in this borough but are not being represented? Surely me coming from the outside at the time, 10 years ago, shouldn't I shouldn't be the only person in this room. There should be many, many others. So that's my first, port of call, right, we need to make change. And then so over the years, I encourage people to come forward, and now we have six councillors from ethnic minority communities. Sadly, nobody from the Middle East, and that's what we need. We do need somebody with that heritage to come forward and become a councillor in Tameside. So over the years, I built myself, did various different portfolios, whether it's health, whether it's community safety, did different things. And then the opportunity 10 years later came to me, once again, to become the mayor by my colleagues. So the councillors appoint their mayor, and I did not hesitate. In fact, I do have a young family, a very young family. At the time, I had a 9-month-old baby.
Wow.
When I was asked to be the deputy mayor. So I did think about it, and I thought, wow, I've got 4 young children under the age of 5 years old. I've got, my partner is very busy with his work. I'm very busy with mine. Can I become the mayor? But then I felt it was too important. I felt if I don't do it, and I have very high standards, and I thought if I don't do it, who is going to do it? Who is going to be the first ethnic minority mayor? We may not see one, or a Muslim mayor, for many, many years to come. So despite my own commitments and my young family, I said, okay, yes, I would be
sorted from somewhere.
I would be honoured to be the first Muslim mayor. So then I became obviously the deputy mayor, and then I became the mayor last year. And I cannot say how honoured and proud I am of that journey. I ensured I put all ethnic minorities at the top. I showcased the diversity of Tameside. I put Tameside on the map. So there's, in other areas, other parts of the country, they wouldn't even know where Tameside is or where it exists. But I did my part and ensured that, there was international coverage, there was national coverage, and there was local coverage. And if you look at some of the local coverage, you probably have never seen, God knows best, but I feel like certainly from the feedback I get, you've never seen a mayor who's been so exposed in a good sense, so much positivity, so much love, so much unity, so much encouragement. I've had all this from Tameside people and beyond, and it's been a very, very beautiful journey. And although it's been very hard work, so sometimes I start at 8 o'clock in the morning and I don't come home till midnight, in between I can quickly go home, sort out the children, do the cooking, as some women, some families have to do. But that's the balance, with women. The balance is, you've got obviously your duties raising a family, especially in our culture. It falls a lot on the women. You've got to raise your family, look after the household, and work. But this work was at a completely different level, and I tried to maintain the balance. It is really important for me as a Muslim woman to maintain that balance, and it can happen. You can work and you can raise a family. If I can do it, so can so many more women.
And your story is a story of no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain.
You proved it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Taf, did you face unique barriers as a Muslim woman, and how do they compare to challenges in conservative societies?
Yes, I have faced many challenges most of my life, and I think that's what determines who you are, and it pushes you forward. So I don't like stereotypical judgmental behaviour, and we all carry prejudices. It's true, we all, it's naturally inhibited in us to carry prejudices, but what's really important is if we're good human beings, we put those prejudices to the side, we put our judgments to the side, and we deal with people fairly and equally, no matter what background they are from. And that is, those are values very, very close to my heart. So when I was a councillor in Luton, so that's a very diverse area, many different national people from many different, so imagine like a London borough, people from many, many different nationalities. So I was constantly dealing with different issues. Then I moved to Tameside, and within a year I was elected to an area called Mosley. Mosley is 99.9% from the white community, so my diversity had gone, but I was dealing with a different set of issues and a different set of problems as a councillor. In both angles, I have had struggles from both places I've been a councillor. On one side, like I said earlier, I work to quite a high standard. So when I work, I like to work to my best, and I like to make a difference. Those are the values I was taught, and I don't half-heartedly do a job. I do it with full perseverance and commitment, which usually gives me solutions for people. But what I found was, like, for example, in Luton, I found, a few of my male colleagues were not too happy about that. So, for example, the ward I stood in is an area called Dallow. There was always 3 Asian men in that ward. And a woman, let alone an Asian woman, never stood in that political ward. So when I stood, I was getting threatening phone calls, I was getting discouragement, do not attend the meeting, you will never be elected, and really getting discouragement. That actually pushed me further, and I said, no, it's time for change. This is the ward I was born in, and I would like the opportunity to represent the ward. Whether I won the election or not, that's up to the people. But at least let me, show you, let me showcase who I am and what I can do.
You never got frustrated by those threats?
I didn't get so frustrated, but I was used to working in a very professional environment. I worked for a law firm in London. I was used to work for a very professional environment. So when I got into politics, I saw the unprofessionalism, and it did put me off, I must say. Because then what happened was, then I did attend the meeting, and then I won that meeting. It's called a selection of the Labour Party. So I won that meeting, but then I had people stand up and start shouting, and to the extent of almost throwing a chair at me. So it became, horrendous. And I wasn't used to being treated like that. I was certainly not treated like that by my family, and neither my professional colleagues. So when I did win and that happened, I did, sit back and think, do I really want to get into politics? Because it's only going to get harder. It will get far more challenging. So anyway, we got through that, and it made me stronger, and that phase was gone. So when I moved here, obviously, like I said, 99.9% had probably never met a Muslim. So they based me on my pictures and what they saw, and this is in the minority. So whichever, these bad experiences, they're always in the minority. So when I came, I then once again was getting phone calls. Where are you from? Who are you? Why are you coming to Mosley? Have you been shipped in from London? And I can tell there was a racist rhetoric. And then I thought, I'm not going to justify myself to a racist. And I said, I've come from where you've come from. And what do you mean, where have you come from? I've come from the south of the country. I was married. I've now moved here. This is going to be where my future is. But I didn't want to justify too much, because I don't believe in justifying to your bullies, because they're never going to change. And anyway, so, I got that rhetoric, but once again, I was very honoured to be selected and very honoured to be elected. And, the honour was even more so because I wasn't born in the ward. I was, people did not know me. It's the truth, they didn't. And I won by 19 votes. Wow. So 19 votes is a very, very small margin. And, I'm thankful to everyone who did vote for me. And I realised at that moment that I need to work double, if not triple, to build the trust, build a relationship, and, to ensure that I am then elected the next time, but also I'm fulfilling my obligations as a councillor. So 4 years later, election time, I've had 3 elections in Mosley now, I won by thousands. And for me that spoke volumes, because it showed that I've come into an area that doesn't represent me, but I represent them. And I've worked hard, and I've been able to gain their trust.
Fantastic. How has your role helped challenge norms, and what can Middle Eastern women learn from it?
So I have constantly challenged norms throughout my political journey. I think when I walk into a room, being a female, being Asian, a person of colour, but also wearing my hijab, I think that speaks volumes of, in terms of who I am. I'm a Muslim woman first and foremost, and I think that has challenged a lot of norms. So I've had people, say to me things like, does your husband make you wear the hijab, for example, or you must be oppressed? But when they hear me speak, about a particular topic, or I'm explaining, or I'm making a speech, they are left quite gobsmacked. Some people, this is in the minority, some people are left quite, because they didn't expect a Muslim woman to be able to be so capable. But Muslim women, men, of all backgrounds, we're all equal. We all come with our different talents and our different areas of expertise, and we should all utilise them. So I may be good at one thing and you're good at another, and our sister is good at another. And that's the important thing, is to tap into who you are, what's your unique characteristic, and what can you offer society. Because at the end of the day, I believe we all have a role to make a difference in society, not just raising our family, but making a difference, improving the area around you, making it a more pleasant experience for everyone to live, work and thrive in.
Yeah, but to gain this, you need to give this opportunity by the government. So you've been given this opportunity by the government. But what about those women in the Middle East who's restricted by the government, don't have as opportunities as you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously around the world things are very different, and I think I need a platform in the Middle East, like I have had in Pakistan, for example, or Kashmir, which is my heritage, to speak to people. So, like I've had lots of people come and interview me, and then that's gone out, and other women have seen that, and it's about encouragement. First of all, it's about encouraging the women. Secondly, in the Middle East, what I'm finding now, and you'll know better, is that things are improving for women. So, 10, 15 years ago, there were so many issues. Women weren't allowed to do this, they weren't allowed to do that. But that is now changing, and I feel, women in the Middle East do need those positions of responsibility. Should be encouraged by the fact that you can balance both worlds. You can balance your home life and you can balance your work life, and it shouldn't just be in politics but in all fields, whether it's engineering, and we're starting to see that, aren't we, in the Middle East, whether it's engineering, teaching. I mean, our Islam, our religion, if you listen to some of the stories of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wife Khadija radhiyallahu anha, she was the most inspirational woman of Islam. She was working, she had her own business, a very, very successful woman. And I don't know why Islam has been diluted in that sense, women empowerment, why that's been diluted, because our women should be at the top, because that's what Islam taught me. And also, beyond that, we had the first Muslim woman open a university in the whole world, so she started her own university. So in the past we have lots of role models, but I just find in the last so ever years the Middle East has taken away some of those rights, and they are rights for our women, and that shouldn't be the case. And in fact, we should be empowering them, and we should be encouraging them, and women like myself or others out there in the Middle East who are doing a tremendous job in society should come forward and share their stories.
How do you see women in Tameside and the Middle East achieving equal political opportunities?
Yeah, so in the UK it may seem that we are absolutely equal, but I have to tell you sadly that we're not. There's still a lot of work to be done. For example, there's a pay gender gap. So in the corporate world, for example, women aren't being paid as much as the men, or the women, because of children, childcare duties and things, are, have to have the part-time jobs and the low-paid jobs, and the men are out there, building their career ladders and getting the highly paid jobs. So there still is some balance, and this government, the Labour government, the UK government, the councils are doing all that we can, and will continue to do all that we can to ensure that men and women are paid. Men and women paid fairly, but women are also paid equally. For example, that's one example. In the Middle East, obviously, they've got almost like I see it as a fresh opportunity. Learn from us. Don't take the good things of the UK. Things like the justice system, the rights, the human rights, the equal opportunities. Take the good things from the UK and learn from that, but don't take our weaknesses, because we do have weaknesses. So I feel there's still a lot more change to come, and the Middle East is behind, but I'm sure they will soon catch up, if not exceed, inshallah.
Fantastic. And as you know, Mr. Trump is in the Oval Office now.
Sorry?
Mr. Trump.
Yes.
Or President Trump. So how do you see this achievement for Mr. Trump for the Middle East, even for England, especially for women? Because as you know, he just marginalized the transgender community as he came to the power, and he says so there are two genders, just man and women. You agree with that?
The problem is, I believe in equality for all, so we're all different, and if I want to say one thing about one community, for example the Muslim community, and empower them, then I wouldn't want to leave a community out, and that is a community as well. So although it's against my beliefs, for example, I believe people should be allowed to express themselves freely how they wish. The guidance is there, but they can express themselves freely how they wish. We don't need to necessarily encourage it. As a Muslim, I don't need to necessarily encourage, but what I can do is support and be there. And I don't believe, President Trump obviously has come in, but he has marginalised a lot of communities. For example, as a woman, I do find him to be a misogynist, given his past record. He doesn't like women, doesn't like trans, doesn't like Muslims, doesn't like Mexicans. I think, the human, the mankind, we're all one, we're all equal, and we should be able to help one another, no matter what beliefs and background we're from, help one another to improve society, improve each other's lives. That's what I believe in. I believe in the humanitarian cause, I believe in humanity. And I think President Trump takes that away from us sometimes, and I think that's not going to be good for anyone.
I wish she could hear you what we're saying now. And as a last question, what is the next step for Tafheen Sharif?
Whatever God wills, whatever Allah wills. So just for our women and our young people out there, obviously I've gone into politics, but I do a variety of work, So when I was younger at university, I volunteered. I volunteered for the Citizens Advice Bureau and gave advice to people on legal matters. I volunteered as a trustee and was a trustee of a law centre, for example. Law was my background, so I always volunteered to get to this position. I didn't just one day walk out of did my studies and work for a law firm and then walk out of the law firm and then go into politics. I always consistently volunteered. I was a school governor. I've been a school governor since at the age of 17 years old. So, I've got many, many years of experience, and I would say to our women, just keep progressing within yourselves. If an opportunity comes at your child's school, they're looking for someone to read to the children, go for it, build it, put it in your CV, then build that, say, well, okay, now actually, I've got a little bit of experience in this, I'd like to go and give some advice to some of our most vulnerable people about debts, for example. You can go in as a volunteer and do that. then that might lead you to get a job in debt advice, and then it'll lead you to something, and then you'll think, oh, I'm meeting all these people, and look how difficult life is. Actually, I might want to become a counsellor. And then slowly you build yourself. I don't have any personal ambitions for myself. I'm not saying I want to be this and I want to be that. My ambition is for my people of Tameside, and that is to grow a prosperous Tameside where people are happy, people are well, and people are looked after, and then they can then look after others. That's my ambition. And today, you know, I was the mayor last year, and this year I'm the cabinet member for health and equalities, and I'm also the first deputy of Tameside.
And probably in future we see you in the government.
I'm in local government. I'm the first deputy for Tameside Council, and once again we've never had an ethnic minority, person of colour, Muslim in these positions of responsibility. So for me, it's just keep going and keep helping others, and you know, God paves the path for you.
Fantastic. That was so inspiring interview, and such a pleasure for me. And thank you again to giving me this opportunity to hold this interview with you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Taf.
much. Thank you.